I had a whole thing I wanted to say about this, but I'll answer your questions first, and then maybe I'll develop them, and the thing I really want to say will come to the surface. First question: are words in space and time? Okay, so words can be in space time or in space time in two different ways. And I don't think this is actually relevant to the discussion, but it is to answer your question. The first way is in the sound way, the word itself being expressed orally, because words are expressed, I would say, in two ways. Well, they're all physical, but we have this habit of, I guess, well, I'm having this habit of saying, okay, well, they're either in the air because of sound on a page, or in your mind in an abstract way. But it's possible that, anything that's in the mind is just physical. It's this little chemical pulse, and the word is in there just as much as it's on the paper or it's in the air. So maybe it only exists in one way, physically. But that's not really relevant to the discussion. So I guess it's in two ways. The word itself, as it is communicated, is present in space-time as a wave and of air. So it is that chunk of air that's moving along, or it's the pattern in that chunk of air. So maybe it's not even something physical then. In the case of in the mind, maybe I'm looking at the opposite way. The word is on the page also as something physical. It's the ink, but it's also on the paper because there has to be some paper for the ink to stand out. So it's also a pattern in the ink of the paper. So previously, when I thought that it was being physical because it's out in the air, it's a sound or it's a picture, it's no longer physical. It's a pattern. When in the mind, it might actually be physical because there's an actual chemical or electric signal that's going out that is something physical. It's energy. Anyway, that was wacky. I didn't think of that before I made this video. So, and the second way is when it's going through the mind. So yes, in those senses, words are in space and time. Are we in the space and time of the words? I don't think words themselves make space and time, or make some sort of concept of space and time. I think our associations and our opinions that we link to words, that we express using words, so we'll position ourselves within that, and we'll communicate it with words. A lot of the time we'll assume that the words are those associations, but they're not. When in deep thought, I could think of something without actually thinking of the word. I would think of it. I would think of the image, or sometimes I wouldn't even come up with an image. I would just come up with the concept without actually thinking the word. So, yeah. So, second question, no, we are not in the space and time of words. How does language relate to history? Language is, I would guess, you're always talking about something, and something takes place, whether or not it is a thing or it's a concept that you are making up or perceiving. They all happen, and if something happens according to the concept that we have, what is history, then they are historical. So in that way, language relates to history. If you're talking about something, then you're talking about history. Are animals in history? Do they have historical consciousness? This is tough to say. I mean, I'm an animal, so I say that I'm in history, and I think I am. I'm not talking about history in some sort of way that I'm conceiving history. History is something that we think happens. I mean, we understand that there are events, and we perceive events to happen in a sequence, so we assume that things work in accordance to what happened previously, or I don't know. I think I've heard of some theory about how time can make sense backwards, so maybe it also has to do with what's going to happen. I don't know. So I do think animals are in history, as much as I understand what history is. Do they, or we, and all the other animals have historical consciousness? Historical consciousness. Well, I think I understand what history is, so that means I'm conscious of whatever I understand to be history. So I guess it's very possible that another animal is capable of doing that. I don't know what animal specifically, because our brains work very differently. So I would say, yeah, they can have historical consciousness. So, what was I gonna get at? Wish you could pause this recorder. In the space and time of the words, how does language relate to this?
Community, humanity has, through long, slow process of communicative developments, communicative technologies, we have...
I will make a second video response.